On the way back from the airport, Marcus and I were forced to stop our car. A woman who looked quite similar to me got out of a car and blocked our vehicle. I was confused, but Marcus had already frantically opened the door, gotten out, and was comforting Luna. I opened my car door and happened to overhear Marcus and her conversation. "Sweetheart, you go back first. I'll explain everything to her. Don't worry, I haven't touched her in 3 years. I'll definitely come to your place tonight." Hearing's words, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. Just as I was about to ask, he looked at me with a cold face and said, "Get back in the car." Luna looked at me smugly and said, "So this is your wife? I see. When I left you back then, you found a stand-in, and she even looks quite like me." After saying that, Luna turned and got into her car, while Marcus pushed me back into our car and said, "I'm going after her. Have the driver take you home." With that, he hurriedly drove off. At that moment, all I wanted to do was laugh, so I was just a stand-in for someone else. I had worked tirelessly abroad for him for 3 years, only to receive this outcome. The driver took me to a small apartment. I stared at the apartment in front of me. "Stunned, madam?" he said, with a hint of amusement. "Mr. Marcus said that Ms. Luna lives in the villa. Since you don't come back often anyway, you can stay here for now." I knew the driver was also Marcus's man. I simply smiled, said nothing more, and asked the driver to leave. If a man couldn't be kept, why should I bother anymore? However, I would definitely get back everything Marcus had taken from me. After the driver left, I casually dialed a number, cut off all resources to Marcus's company. I said coolly into the phone, "Since he's with Luna then, let him go bankrupt." "Yes, boss," came my secretary's voice from the other end. "Also, find out everything about Luna." Just half an hour after I hung up, my secretary sent me all the information about Luna. Luna, Marcus's first love. So from the very beginning, I had only been Luna's stand-in yet. I had foolishly believed Marcus loved me deeply. Now I finally understood that he had never loved me. I was merely his substitute. As I was reviewing the information, my phone suddenly rang. It was Marcus calling. "Luna is a pure girl. Don't scare her." After I answered, I heard Marcus's slightly warning tone on the phone. At that moment, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "Marcus, shouldn't you be giving me an explanation?" I said coolly, "I am your legal wife, aren't I?" "Grace, I'm sorry, but I can't leave Luna." "Don't worry. You'll always be my wife. That won't change. Luna won't compete with you for the position of wife," Marcus said from the other end of the phone. "I'll balance your relationship with Luna." Listening to Marcus, I chuckled and said, "Marcus, is this why you threw me into a small apartment? I remember that house was our marital home when we got married, wasn't it?" Marcus fell silent on the other end. "Grace, you're only back for a few days anyway. Is it so important whether it's the marital home? Luna likes that house. Why don't you just let her have it?" Marcus quickly said from the other end. Hearing's words, I felt suffocated. The man I once thought loved me deeply had now betrayed me. I remembered when I first met Marcus. He was just a struggling office worker. At that time, the first time Marcus saw me, he pursued me relentlessly. I initially didn't want to agree, but Marcus proved his love for me again and again. Finally, I was moved by Marcus, and we got married. Marcus was even afraid that Henry wouldn't approve of our marriage, so he proactively signed a prenuptial agreement. If he cheated, he would leave with nothing. But even with that, it still didn't matter. When the one he idealized returned, he still chose to cheat. At this moment, I felt exceptionally sad. I remembered when he was starting his business, I gave him a large sum of money. Even when his business ran into trouble, it was I who used Henry's connections to help him resolve those issues. Furthermore, for his sake, I voluntarily went abroad, negotiating one big deal after another, just so Marcus could hold his head high in front of Henry. But now, all my efforts had been for nothing. I even felt like a complete joke. I knew that the company's business had grown steadily over the years, which was why Marcus dared to act this way. But he wouldn't even consider that he was just a poor kid with no connections. Weren't all of the company's deals secured because of Henry's influence and mine? Now, he had chosen to cheat. Since that was the case, there was no longer any affection left between us. "Marcus, the place you're living in right now is my home. Tonight, I'm coming back to my own house. Furthermore," I said coldly, "please, you and Luna, move out of my villa." "Grace, do you have to make such a scene?" Marcus's voice was cold from the other end of the line. "Luna needs rest and her condition can't handle stress. This house might be your marital home, but I'm also your husband. I have the right to let Luna stay." I chuckled. too tired to argue with Marcus anymore. Marcus, I'll be back at my house in half an hour. Please take Luna and move out, I said, my voice still icy. No sooner had I finished speaking than Luna's voice came through the phone. Why should I move out? Marcus owns half of this house too, so I'm not moving. Besides, this is my home now. I've lived here for 3 years. If anyone's moving out, it should be you. I've never seen someone as shameless as you. Marcus doesn't love you anymore. Why are you still clinging on? You think threatening him with the house will make Marcus love you? Luna's voice echoed from the phone, but I just smiled, said nothing, and hung up immediately. I dialed the police. Hello, officer, my house has been illegally occupied. I asked them to leave, but they refused. Please help me evict them. After hanging up, I called my lawyer. Get out of my house. My lawyer told me he had prepared the documents and was ready to go with me at any time. Ms. Grace, he said, that house is your premarital property, coupled with the agreement Marcus signed with you. You have every right to reclaim everything that belongs to you. I smiled, acknowledging I understood what the lawyer said. Immediately, I sent Marcus an ultimatum, but I hadn't expected Marcus to send me a message in return. Grace, you only know how to use money to bully people. Can't you show some sympathy for Luna? Hearing's words, I didn't want to say anything more. He was completely out of his mind. He had cheated first, yet he still thought I could forgive him, even tolerate everything about him, including Luna, at that moment. I couldn't even be bothered to text him back. I had my lawyer bring bodyguards, and we went straight to my house. When I arrived with the lawyer, I found that even the door lock had been changed by Marcus. I called Marcus. At the door, I could even hear the phone ringing inside. Marcus, open the door, I said coldly. Grace, I admit this house is yours, but it's also mine. I have the right to invite others to live here. Marcus said on the phone. Besides, you're only back for a few days anyway. Why do you have to fight with Luna? Listening to Marcus, I was too lazy to respond, turning instead to look at my lawyer. Ms. Grace, don't worry. I'll handle things from here, the lawyer said with a smile. At the same time, the lawyer gestured directly to the bodyguards behind him. Several bodyguards immediately pulled out a sledgehammer and right in front of me smashed the front door. I watched dispassionately from the side. Soon, the door was broken open. I saw Marcus, desperately trying to comfort Luna, who was crying and clinging to him. Tear stains on her face clearly. She had been crying. When turned to look at me, I could even see a flicker of anger in his eyes. Grace, what exactly do you want? He demanded furiously. I've already made it very clear to you. Luna is sick. Why are you pushing her like this? I looked at Marcus and Luna and said coolly, Marcus, I'm not pushing her. I just want to live in my own home. Grace, didn't I tell you? Marcus said coldly, looking at me. Luna is sick and needs recuperation. This place is suitable for her. It's just for you to stay in the apartment for a few days. Can't you even tolerate that? I ignored Marcus and turned to look at my lawyer instead. I felt there was no point in continuing to talk to Marcus now. At this point, his eyes were only on Luna. The lawyer gave me a reassuring look and at the same time, pointed to the phone in his hand, telling me he was recording both audio and video. Then, the lawyer walked up to Marcus, looked at him, and said, Mr. Marcus, I am Ms. Grace's legal counsel. My client demands the return of her property. Please vacate my client's home in 1 hour. Why should we? No sooner had the lawyer finished speaking than Luna, looking defiant, loudly challenged him. Why should we leave just because she tells us to? She's Marcus's wife, so this house is partly Marcus's. Marcus allows me to live here. We're not moving. Luna shouted, her emotions running high. Listening to Luna, the lawyer calmly responded, Ms. Luna, first of all, this house is my client's personal property, not marital property. You moved in without my client's permission, which already infringes upon her rights. The lawyer then stated directly, now, please vacate my client's home. I won't move, Luna shouted immediately. I'm definitely not leaving. Then, she pulled Marcus and said, Marcus, you know, my body can't handle constant travel. I know, Luna, don't worry, Marcus quickly said upon hearing her. Then, he turned to me and said, Grace, haven't you caused enough trouble? How much more difficult do you want to make things? If get sick because of this, I will never forgive you. Upon hearing that, I sneered, Marcus, I don't need your forgiveness. Furthermore, given your infidelity, I will file for divorce. Now, get out of my house, I said, looking at Marcus. Hearing those words, Marcus was momentarily stunned. Then, he suddenly looked at me in a rage. Grace, What did you say? You want to divorce me? Your heart isn't with me anymore, and I'm not allowed to divorce you? I retorted. He remained silent for a long time after my question, then finally said, Grace, my being with Luna isn't all my fault. If you hadn't been abroad since we got married, I wouldn't have ended up with Luna. What's more, we've been married for 3 years, and you haven't given me a child. Luna is pregnant now, and that's my child. I won't allow you to harm Luna. He shouted at me. But listening to Marcus, I just laughed. My heart, however, felt as if it had been pricked by needles. After marriage, I could have stayed home being a homemaker and raising a family, but Marcus's company kept incurring losses. In the end, I had no choice but to go abroad, helping Marcus secure enough orders. I remembered that when I landed those orders, Marcus was both happy and begged me to stay abroad, for I stayed abroad. But now, he blamed me for neglecting him and living abroad. Under such circumstances, how could we have had a child? Now he blames me for not bearing him one. He wouldn't even consider that without me, he might still be just a junior employee. Mr. Marcus, I recall you were the one who asked me to go abroad, weren't you? You wouldn't forget how much money I helped your company earn over these years, would you, Mr. Marcus? I looked at Marcus and said with a cold laugh, furthermore, since we're getting a divorce, our assets naturally need to be divided clearly. Marcus, you will leave with nothing. No sooner had I finished speaking than Luna immediately shouted anxiously, No, Grace, how can you make Marcus leave with nothing? This company is Marcus's. He built it from the ground up. You just enjoyed everything abroad. You don't understand Marcus's hard work at all. And now you want Marcus to leave with nothing? Grace, you really are a vicious woman. I ignored Luna and looked at Marcus instead. Marcus, please move out of my house. As for our divorce, you can talk to my lawyer about it. I was too tired to waste words on these two. Besides, I was exhausted after such a long flight. Grace, Luna and I are not moving furthermore. Even if we divorce, the property will be split 50-50. I'm taking this villa, and you can leave now, Marcus said, looking at me. Hearing's words, I just smiled. I had known he would be like this. Back then, I must have been blind to fall for someone like him. Since he and Luna weren't willing to move out, I would just have to force them. Besides, I found the house to be tainted, having been lived in by Luna. Smash this house down, I said calmly. Upon hearing my command, the bodyguards behind me immediately raised their sledgehammers and began to fiercely strike the house. This scene stunned both Luna and Marcus. Stop it, Marcus quickly shouted loudly, but no matter how much he yelled, none of the bodyguards listened to him. In fact, the more they smashed, the more enthusiastic they became, even running into rooms and breaking anything they saw. Grace, what are you doing? Marcus demanded, his face full of rage, looking at me. She lived in this house, and I don't like it, I said calmly, so I'm going to smash the whole thing. Is there a problem? I asked, looking at Marcus. Hearing my words, Marcus's face became incredibly grim. Luna, on the other hand, quickly said to me, Grace, make them stop right now, or I'll call the police. I ignored Luna and let the bodyguards continue smashing. This house was originally mine. Even if she called the police, what could they do? Luna quickly pulled Marcus and said, Marcus, call the police quickly. Marcus immediately called the police upon hearing her. After making the call, Marcus looked at me and shouted, Grace, make them stop right now. You're destroying other people's property. When the police get here, none of you will get away with this. My lawyer and I completely ignored Marcus. After all, with a lawyer by my side, we naturally knew exactly what was going on. Soon, several police officers arrived. Seeing the police at the door, Luna quickly shouted, Officer, you're here just in time. These people came right in and smashed my house. Quickly arrest them. I smiled, watching Luna try to turn the tables. Then said, Officer, this is my house. It's not illegal for me to have my own house smashed, is it? No sooner had I finished speaking than the police officers were momentarily stunned. My lawyer quickly stepped forward, handed my property deed to the police, and began to explain exactly what was happening. Once the police officers learned it was my house, they had no choice but to step aside. Even though Luna was shouting and making a scene, it was utterly useless. Soon, the bodyguards had completely demolished my villa. Seeing the scene before them, Marcus's and Luna's faces both changed. Now, forget about living there. There wasn't even a place to stand. Marcus, remember to go to the courthouse tomorrow, I said, looking at him. Hearing my words, Marcus's face turned especially grim. Grace, divorce is fine, but the money, that's mine. You won't take a single cent. This company is mine, not yours, he said, looking at me with a cold face. Listening to Marcus, I just smiled. Fine, the company is yours. However, I was the one who funded this company. Over these years, I was also the one who helped the company secure its deals, I said, giving Marcus a cool glance. Hearing my words, Marcus's face turned icy. Grace, that's enough. Grace, you've been abroad all these years. I built this company up alone. Why should I have to share it with you? I looked at Marcus, smiled, and said nothing instead. I turned and left with my people. I knew I didn't need to argue with him. After all, I had many ways to make him compromise. After I left, I checked into a high-end hotel. Then, I instructed my lawyer to handle my divorce from Marcus. As for me, I immediately collapsed into sleep. From the moment I flew back until now, I had been busy all day. I was too exhausted. What I hadn't expected, though, was that in my semi-conscious state, Marcus called me. As soon as I answered, I heard Marcus's suppressed voice. Grace, do you really want to divorce me? Marcus, isn't it obvious? I said coolly. Since you're already with Luna then, isn't it perfectly normal for me to divorce you? Hearing me say that, Marcus fell silent. Then, Marcus finally spoke. Grace, we don't have to get divorced. Anyway, you won't be back often, I promise, from now on. I'll make sure Luna lives elsewhere, so you won't see her. As for Luna's child, I'll bring them back later, and the child will certainly be filial to you. Listening to Marcus, I laughed in spite of myself. Even now, he still thought we could coexist peacefully. I'm sorry, Marcus, but I can't accept that. You and Luna should just live your lives well. Anyway, if you don't divorce me, I still have ways to deal with it. After saying that, I hung up the phone. I was tired of talking to Marcus any further. Afterward, I called Henry, who was still abroad. I told him the situation. Henry comforted me, telling me that no matter what, he would always support my decisions. As for Marcus's company, Henry didn't even care about it. My lawyer called me to inform me that he had applied to the court for an injunction to freeze Marcus's company accounts. After all, I was the one who funded this company from the beginning. Now, since Marcus wasn't willing to divorce me or give up his company shares, I naturally had the right to do so. With the company accounts frozen, Marcus finally panicked. He rushed to the hotel, looked at me and said, Grace, what exactly do you want? Why are you doing this? You have a share in the company too. Are you happy to see the company collapse? Marcus, you seem to have forgotten, I said calmly, looking at him. My family is wealthy. For me, whether this company collapses or stays open won't have much of an impact. The only one affected is you. What's more, I just want to reclaim what belongs to me. My words silenced Marcus for a long time. Eventually, Marcus, with no other option, could only tell me that he was willing to divorce. I smiled when I heard that. Marcus and I met at the courthouse. We quickly signed the agreement. The company would go to Marcus, but he had to return all the contributions I had made over the years. Marcus transferred almost all the cash from the company's accounts to me, and in the end, it was still a little short. Of course, I didn't bother to quibble over that small amount. I knew Marcus was broke, for he had spent a lot of money recently, buying a villa Luna liked and even putting it in her name. Not only that, Marcus had also given a considerable amount of money to Luna's parents. When I left the courthouse, I even saw the angry glares from Marcus and Luna. Luna even looked at me and said, Grace, is this how much you love Marcus? You left him with no cash at all? I'm sorry, I'm not Marcus's wife, so I can only take back what's mine. As for you, if you want to support Marcus, you can sell the villa he just bought you. Then he'll have cash. I smiled after saying that. Luna's family was practically bleeding Marcus dry. How could they be willing to sell the villa for him? As expected, Luna's face changed when she heard my words, but she didn't dare to agree. Instead, Marcus pulled Luna and kept reassuring her. Luna, don't worry. The company still has several projects. Once they're done, the company will have cash again. Listening to Marcus, I smiled and said nothing. What he didn't know was that those projects were only given to Marcus because of Henry's influence and mine. Now that I had divorced Marcus, why would they care about him? That very evening, as soon as I returned to the company, I saw Marcus's social media post. He shared his marriage certificate with Luna, and he wrote, After all this time, I finally found the one who loves me most. I looked at the social media post and smiled, but I didn't say anything. Instead, a group of friends started asking Marcus how he had divorced me. Marcus dared not reply, Some friends called me, and after learning that Marcus had cheated and divorced me, they hung up. A few days later, all of Marcus's clients knew about the situation. By this time, I had already returned abroad. Henry personally picked me up from the airport and told me to get some good rest. Over the years, to ensure Marcus's company developed well, I had negotiated countless deals, but in the end, all I got was betrayal now. Since the company had nothing to do with me, I could naturally be a quiet person living off my parents with Henry. Henry told me he would support me for life, so I didn't need to work so hard. What I hadn't expected was that while I was enjoying my comfortable life at home, Marcus called me. As soon as I answered, I heard Marcus's choked voice, "Grace, I was wrong. Please forgive me." His words caught me off guard. Before I even had time to react, he immediately said, "Grace, as long as you come back, I can divorce Luna. I'll send her back to her hometown. Don't worry, I'll stay by your side forever." Listening to Marcus, I chuckled and said, "Marcus, no need. You and Luna should just live your lives well." After saying that, I hung up on Marcus. Then, I called my friends back in the country to ask them what was going on. They told me that ever since the news of Marcus's divorce from me spread, he hadn't landed a single deal anywhere he went. After all, those people had originally given Marcus deals out of respect for Henry. Now that Marcus had no connection to our family, they naturally had better options. Marcus's company was now almost unable to cope. Not only was the company's scale constantly shrinking, but he also owed a lot of money to suppliers. All those suppliers had sued him now. Marcus was completely helpless. He came to beg me, merely hoping I would give him money. Hearing my friend's words, I smiled, then hung up the phone. In the days that followed, I continued to live exceptionally well. While my friends called me every few days to update me on Marcus's situation, Marcus tried to borrow money everywhere, but no one was willing to lend it to him. He even forced Luna to sell her house, but Luna outright refused, and Luna immediately divorced Marcus. Now, Marcus had nothing left. He even owed a lot of money. Soon after, Marcus's company went bankrupt. On the very day his company went bankrupt, Marcus was kicked out by Luna. Listening to my friends, I couldn't help but sigh. Only someone like Marcus, whose mind wasn't right, would have trusted Luna. I had initially thought that this matter would end there, but I hadn't expected to see Marcus on the news a few days later. He had been arrested. The reason was that he still couldn't forget Luna. So he went to Luna's villa, only to find her with another man. Provoked, Marcus grabbed a knife and fatally stabbed both Luna and the man. Ultimately, he was arrested. The police called me, saying Marcus wanted to see me. I refused. Marcus and I had long since had no connection whatsoever. I now had my own perfect life. Why should I bother seeing Marcus? However, the police still hoped I would speak with Marcus once. I finally agreed. On the other end of the phone, Marcus was crying heartbrokenly. "Grace, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I'm sorry." "Marcus, there's no need to apologize," I said with a smile. "I know that if you were given another chance to choose, you would still choose Luna. Your heart was never truly with me. Your regret is merely because of your current situation. So, no apologies needed. You and I have absolutely no relationship anymore." I hung up the phone and continued living my life. Half a month later, Marcus was sentenced to death. Hearing this news, I simply offered a calm smile. That's all for today's story. Thank you for listening. This is my channel. The tales I share drawn from life or woven from imagination are meant to offer you connection, reflection, and perhaps solace or newfound strength. If you long to see your own reflection in others' journeys, or seek a glimmer of light within the maze of emotions, subscribe to my channel. Listen with your heart. Explore the stories of life.